What's up, Dirty Birds? Tori McElhaney, Terrin, Waack, and Amna, Subhan coming to you with the Falcons Final Whistle Podcast. I know what you're thinking. Where's Will? Well, Will's doing the camp report today because yours truly wasn't really able to watch practice. So what's really fun about this podcast is I'm kind of sitting in the seat that you, the viewers and or listeners, are, where fans aren't allowed to practice. We don't know what's going on. If you're a fan, you have no idea. You have no clue. It's only what we tell you or what you see on...
Tori was not allowed.
I was not allowed out of practice. No, I'm kidding. I was allowed out of practice. I just had a bunch of other things that I was doing, a bunch of other projects that I was working on. So Amna and Terrin were out there the whole entire time. So we're going to go through it a little bit. So guys, I do want to start because for a little bit of practice, I was in my office, which my office at the facility overlooks the practice fields. And at one point, I looked up because the walls were shaking because guys on the field were screaming so loudly. And I'm, multiple football fields away, and I still could hear them. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this moment because I saw Charlie Warner was involved. I saw Jesse Bates. So one of y'all take this because this was a moment that I mean, even from 100 feet away, I was like, oh, dang, something's happening.
I'll let Terrin really get into it because I forgot my phone upstairs and I need to use it to record pressers afterwards. But I was kind of in a similar position as you. As I was far away, I was kind of like in the cafeteria watching from afar. And the same thing, I just saw that ball go dart up in the air. And I was like, who got that? Charlie? Dang.
Yeah, so I was the only one there, I guess.
You and Will, who's currently working on the camp report.
So this falls on me. But yeah, Kirk was really airing the ball out today, so it wasn't a surprise to see it go up and out. But what was surprising was who leapt up, got off the ground really high to grab it. And it was really deep down the field, which you wouldn't expect for a tight end. Y'all have already given away that it was the Charlie Warner who caught this ball over the Jesse Bates, the third. And so everyone was just like, wait a minute, was that
Charlie?
We're looking at our notes being like, you saw that, right? Because every other deep ball had been going to Drake London, who had an immaculate practice, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
We will.
But you don't expect Charlie Warner to be, 30, 40 yards down there, leaping along the sideline behind Jesse Bates for a pass. But he got it. And I think when you rewatch the video, doesn't it
It hits off of Jesse's hand. It was crazy.
Into the air, and then Charlie grabs it just like this.
It was crazy because I obviously saw it kind of the back end of the play, but then I was able to watch a video that one of our social reporters got and then looked at some photos that our team photographer, Jay, also took. And there's this one photo that is crazy. You look at this photo and you're like, Jesse's Bates
hand,
made
ball.
The play. Jesse made the play. There was no doubt that this was a broken up pass and it was a great play by Jesse. But for some reason, the ball, when it hit his palm, it tipped up towards Charlie instead of away from him, and Charlie came down with it.
I've never seen maybe not never, but this training camp alone, I haven't seen the team so excited. They swarmed that man.
Well, this was the loudest.
Defense and offense alike.
Yeah, no, there were many times today where there was really good run defense, and the defense was just going crazy on the sideline.
Yeah, it was honestly one of the more energetic practices I think I have seen, and I didn't even see it. I just heard it, and I think that...
No, it was even from the sideline.
Right, and I think that's pretty notable because we're in the dog days of camp right now. We are a little over halfway. They're gearing up to go up to Baltimore this weekend for their second preseason game. 53-man roster cutdowns are coming. This is a big time period for preseason. So I'm kind of just curious, Amna, when you look at this practice and the energy that there was today, what did you take from that in the context of the fact that we're in the middle of training camp?
I think it just makes you excited for the season. We have Baltimore, we have Jacksonville, but I can feel week one coming already. And honestly, I feel like that energy, honestly, it's going to start with Raheem because he has the most energy of anyone, but Kirk. Kirk being the guy that when you're just throwing deep balls down the field and Drake London's going to catch it, that makes things fun. We're just having fun. I'm having fun watching it.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you bring up Drake London, and we've been circling around this topic for the first 5 minutes. Let's get into the Drake London of today because I want to preface this by saying that Monday was a tough day for Drake. I looked back on that practice, and the DBs were giving him nothing.
I had an entire note just on, no offense, London struggles.
Like, and whether or not it was actually him or the connection with Kirk or the DBs actually playing very, very well on Monday, there just wasn't that connection on Monday.
Right.
And who knows what it was, but it wasn't there. And you could see and you could sense, and I think Drake London would say the same thing, that there was a level of frustration that things weren't working on Monday. But I truly think, saw the best of Drake London today. This was the best that he looked. And I say that, again, not from being out there, but from things that reporters on the sidelines were tweeting out, the pictures, the videos that I saw. This was Drake London almost kind of being like, and I took Monday personally. So, Terrin, what did you see from Drake today?
Gosh, I mean, Drake's first catch was a long shot down the right sideline, and he caught it, and it was presumably a touchdown. Obviously, people aren't actually scoring and whatnot during these drills, but it would have been.
Yeah.
He was all the way down there. And then there was another completion right after that didn't involve Drake, but then the exact same play, 2 plays later, it's the same thing. Long shot down the right. Drake catches it, probably another touchdown. And it's just like, that was 2 almost back-to-back. Like, there was one sneak in there beforehand. Then you have him later, and it's, again, exact same play, but coming at us rather than away from us.
Yeah.
Same, right down the sideline. And it's a deep shot, and he catches it. And, like, again, touchdown. He was so close. There's no way he would have gotten taken down. That, you're like, okay, I see you.
Yeah. I saw this one photo of him, and it looked like a game day photo because it was
He
like
was so lit.
Yeah, he was like screaming. He had his helmet off. What was that moment like? Did either of y'all see it?
But like that, I think was on the other side.
Because I know he had a one.
We stand. It's like
I know
end zone,
exactly.
And it was that way.
I know exactly what photo you're using. We're
Right.
talking about because I used that for the best thing I saw.
Yeah.
And yeah, it reminds me of like, you know, one of those. I can't remember it last year. But
I think
he
it was
like
the
ripped off
Saints.
his helmet.
Yeah.
And he was just like screaming. And yeah, I mean, I wrote about that in that. Go check that out.
Go check it out. AtlantaFalcons.com.
Yes, always got to plug it. But yeah, he was 7 for 9. He looked really good. And yeah, he did have that practice last, what was it? Monday. Time isn't real.
He was
But
0 for 3 then.
he was 0 for 3, and Kirk and he had like a conversation. They were pretty animated afterwards. And you could see that he just came back with an edge, but he always has that edge because he had that edge on Monday. Like, he was visibly upset. Yeah. And today he was visibly excited. It's just, it's nice to see Drake kind of like get that rhythm and see him like really come into his own in the best practice he's had so far.
What's interesting about Drake from a personality standpoint is he has this like dichotomy to his personality because every time you talk to him off the field, he's incredibly chill, just very like lackadaisical isn't the right word, but that's the word that comes to mind. Very California. Like he leans into that.
He's chill.
He is very chill. On the field, though, there is this passion and aggression that comes out time and time again. And it was something that Darnell Mooney actually talked about a couple of weeks ago when he was asked, you know, what is it about Drake London that surprised you or intrigued you the more you've gotten to know him? And he said he has this aggression that he taps into when he's between the lines. And I think we saw that 110% today. And that's the Drake London that the Falcons need. That type of Drake London who is sprinting downfield, making these one-handed grabs, who's excited, who's, you know, maybe not taking his helmet off in the game, but, you know what I mean. And I think that that's something that we need. If you're the Falcons, you need to see from him and that connection with Kirk Cousins. I'm curious. I know Kirk Cousins had his press conference after practice. I was curious if Kirk said anything about Drake.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned that the conversation they had on Monday's practice that he didn't think any of those incompletions were drops. He thought that those were bang plays, and I agree.
I do too,
like,
for sure.
The coverage, they were all over him. There was a pass breakup by Jesse. There was one by Anthony Johnson. But Drake was still hard on himself. He said, and like you said, he took that personally.
He took it personally. It's just that meme of, and I took that personally. That was Drake
we need
today.
that Drake's face,
right?
On MJ's. Yeah.
Our social team, you heard it. You heard it here first.
Looking at like my notes from today's practice, in total, if you were to like let the plays play out, I had Drake with 4 touchdowns. And then, so I only had 1 incompletion from him. And it's because Kevin King was like all over him. Like it was incredible coverage that it's like, that's not on Drake. That's like, that was just a really good play by Kevin King.
You got to give credit where credit is due.
So it's like, I was like trying to find the other one that you were referencing, but yeah, I have him with one incompletion only.
Wow.
Okay, well, there you go.
Right, yeah.
Wild.
That's crazy.
Today's episode of Falcons Final Whistle is brought to you by Zaxby's. And after a long game, when I'm tired and I need to refuel, I turn to Zaxby's. Their marinated, hand-breaded, fried to perfection chicken fingers, they hit the spot every time. Get yours with seasoned crinkle fries, a nice drink, and whichever of their 12 signature sauces you're feeling at the moment. But it always hits just right. So next time you need to refuel, go get yourself some Zaxby's.
So let's talk a little bit more about this defense in this secondary, because I feel like, and we made mention of this a little bit on the podcast that Will and I did, talking about my 53-man roster projection, about how much this cornerback position, the battle is really, really heating up. And I'm not just talking, I know we talked a lot going into the season or going into the preseason about Mike Hughes versus Clark Phillips at that second corner spot opposite AJ Terrell. But we have now, over the last week, spoken a lot about Kevin King, Anthony Johnson, Antonio Hamilton. It really feels like there is this level of intensity that this group, beyond AJ Terrell, Mike Hughes, Clark Phillips, that it's really, really heating up. Over the course of these last 2 days, what do you feel, Terrin, that you've learned in this process of, we're getting closer and closer to a 53-man cut down. How are these cornerbacks standing out to you?
No, for sure. I don't think of it normally in a bigger picture than Mike Hughes versus Clark Phillips, because we're looking for like that second spot, but it is getting bigger. We're talking about people who you might not have spoken about before preseason. I'm personally excited about Kevin King. There's a story coming out about him tomorrow morning.
AtlantaFalcons.com.
That's 2 years away, and he has a history with both Jimmy Lake and Jerry Gray. Mm-hmm. And talking to Jerry Gray, he let it slip that they tried to get him last year, but then he tore his Achilles. So it was like, all right, can't do that. But then they reached out immediately this year. It's Jerry putting that initiative to get Kevin King here because of what he saw in Green Bay. And so if Kevin can get back to that peak healthy performance, which I don't even think the league saw his peak performance while in Green Bay, because he was always dealing with injuries.
Right.
And that one season where he was super healthy, the next one he took himself out of the league for mental health reasons. Mm-hmm. And so now he's giving it 110%. He's mentally strong. He's physically strong, or he's getting there. I know both he and Jerry talked about getting in better playing shape and whatnot. But if he can do that, I wonder what the potential is there. And so at cornerback, it is kind of fun to see there is more competition than just Mike Hughes and Clark Phillips. Mm-hmm. But Clark is doing really well. It's just between those two, back and forth. Mike has a great day. Clark has a great day. That it's that's a good problem to have. I think I'm more curious about safety now, given the 100%. Injury to DeMarco Hellams, which we talked a lot about on Monday. Mm-hmm. So you do see people sliding in there and getting reps that you wouldn't have expected, because they have to find out who's going to be that other guy. Mm-hmm. Because yes, there's Richie Grant, but you need a little competition there too, because otherwise why was there competition between Richie and DeMarco in the first place?
Yeah. So I guess the follow-up question is, as we've gone through these last couple of days, who do you see stepping up with DeMarco Hellams just not able to go right now?
Can I say I don't know? I mean,
I think that's fair.
That's what, we weren't looking at anyone else. You know what I mean? And I don't know that anyone has necessarily separated themselves like Kevin King has at cornerback, like Antonio Hamilton has at cornerback. Mm-hmm. There aren't those 3, 4, 5 guys who are making their names known as much at the safety position. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Have you noticed anyone?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of things. You can look out and find what's out there. Terry and Kyle Smith, I'm sure, are looking at every option.
Of course.
Lucas Dennis was making his name known a little bit today.
Micah Abernathy, Dane Cruikshank.
Dane's hasn't been out there, though.
So that's what's super interesting, is that, we can bring up names, but to your point, it's has there been any type of separation? And so far early, it's still a little bit of a ... question mark.
Yeah. Jerry did name Micah Abernathy as his, my eyes are on him to step up.
Yeah, which would make sense. I feel like Micah is the guy who was here last year. He understands how Jerry Gray operates his secondary. I think there is that level of familiarity, and he was on this team last year. He took reps last year. That's not up for debate. So,
but it's still not that I see you.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's still missing at the safety.
Yeah. And I think that's what this time is. These next 2 weeks, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we get to a 53-man cut down day and the Falcons are looking across the league at positions like safety, outside linebacker, wide receiver even, to see who maybe falls off of some other 53-man rosters that could be a really nice plug and play here. That, to me, has to happen.
I do think safety should be the highlighted one because you mentioned outside linebacker and you see guys stepping up there too. Like, we're talking about D'Angelo Malone. We're talking about James Smith-Williams, which I know isn't technically outside linebacker, but we're talking about like the edge specifically, like
they're
who
outside.
you want out there.
I know they're not technically on the roster as those positions, but they are outside linebackers. They are coming off the edge.
Whoever's on the edges, I know they're looking for that guy. And I think Lorenzo Carter has kind of solidified his spot probably the most. Yeah. And then you have Arnold Ebiketie, but we were saying for so long that Braylon Trice had the edge over, no pun intended on the position. Arnold, that it's like, now Arnold has to step up. And then you also have Damone Harris.
Yep.
And then D'Angelo Malone, James Smith-Williams. So again, this is another position like cornerback where you can name multiple guys where we couldn't do that at safety.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see Arnold. He's getting a lot of reps because he'll get them with the first team and then he'll still be out there and get them with the second team. So I'm curious to see if like that's the answer there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that and I said this the other day, but I do think that the pressure is on for Arnold Ebiketie to step up without Braylon Trice having Braylon Trice available and not having him available changes things for Arnold Ebiketie. So I feel like we're in a really good spot with our conversation about today. I think it was just a huge day for the offense, and I don't know, Amna, listening back to Kirk Cousins, did he make mention or reference to the fact that maybe the Falcons were trying to air the ball out a little bit more today? Because that's what, from afar, it felt like.
He did. And he said that was kind of like the reads that he was making.
Right.
But he did note that.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And I mean, we could see that. You could see that from your offense.
Right, yeah.
And it was just fun because we also saw that to Kyle Pitts, obviously Charlie, Drake. I think Mooney might have had one.
Yeah.
Or if he didn't, it was like very close.
Right, yeah.
And
I know
it was
D.
just a
Alford
drop.
had a pass breakup at one point.
That was a really good one.
Yeah. So to that point, I think it's like these things were maybe a little bit scripted. I don't know. I haven't seen the call sheet. But I think it just goes to show you that Kirk is looking for these guys downfield.
Yeah.
If they're in one-on-one coverage, he knows he has some big bodies downfield that he can toss up a 50-50 ball to, and hopefully it becomes 70-30.
And his touch is just...
It is a good
It's
touch.
immaculate.
Yeah.
It's fun to see.
I wonder if they did script it that way to test the safeties.
I mean, maybe. There's
It
always
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah,
It
that's
does.
always a possibility. I mean, you always are kind of looking at it from both lenses when you're putting a play call sheet together. It's like, especially in this training camp period. Even I think the other day they were like, Raheem was yelling at Jimmy Lake because he was like, we're moving to play 5, and Jimmy was calling something else for a different play, and just trying to get different looks, trying to show some different rotations and different wrinkles in the scheme itself. But we need to wrap up. So we're going to wrap with Camp Champ, which I feel like I know exactly I feel like this is the one time in all of the Camp Champ days, of all of the days of training camp, where there is a clear favorite as to who Camp Champ should be.
Should we say it on 3?
Yes.
1,
2, 3.
Drake London.
Okay, great. I didn't even
Honorable
add
mention
Kirk
to Charlie
Cousins.
Warner.
Yeah,
Oh,
honorable
true.
mention
Yeah.
to Kirk Cousins for getting the ball
That's
in the
not
hands
Camp
of these
Champ, that's
guys.
just Champ.
Right, yeah. Honorable mention to Charlie Warner. He is not just a blocking tight end, y'all. He has
is a wide
got the
receiver.
But all in all, Drake London, this was arguably his best day of camp. And he
sure.
came out with a vengeance, especially after maybe a lackluster day for himself on Monday. So I think we have consensus, All-American, if you will, for Drake London being the camp champ today. Unfortunately, Will has the documentation of all the camp champs, so I can't tell you who is in the lead right now. I know Clark Phillips had
it's still
2.
just
It's
Clark.
probably Clark.
But haven't we already picked? Have we picked Drake to be a camp champ at some point this week this preseason?
Well, if it
a great
would have been
question.
like the open practice at Mercedes-Benz, but you guys picked Kirk Cousins that day.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, so maybe this is Drake London's very, very first camp champ
Congrats,
award.
Drake.
So congrats, Drake. Well worth it today. It was a big day for him.
High five.
Hi. No. We're going to end on that note. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You can like, subscribe, comment, all those things. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, Atlanta Falcons Podcast Network. We will be back again tomorrow on Thursday to wrap up the week and get ready for the Falcons' second preseason game against Baltimore. Until then, we'll see ya.